The med bay was quiet when the alien nurse entered. Her name was Soraya, and it was her first week serving on the orbiting hospital station above the war-torn colony world. She was nervous because today she had been assigned to a new patient. One unlike any she had seen before. The file said only one word under species: human. Soraya had heard rumors about humans. Some said they were fierce predators, dangerous even when unarmed. Others said they were fragile and weak, creatures who survived only by luck. She had never met one before, and now she was supposed to care for one. She stood outside the recovery chamber for a long moment, her four-fingered hands trembling. Inside, on the bed, lay the human, unconscious, covered in strange bandages. His chest rose and fell slowly, a rhythm that seemed both fragile and strong at the same time. She took a deep breath, reminding herself she was a professional. A nurse did not judge. A nurse healed. The doors slid open with a hiss, and she stepped inside. The smell was different here, sharp, warm, like ozone and iron. Her large, dark eyes scanned the monitors, trying to understand the readings. Human body structure was confusing. So different from her people: 2 lungs, 1 heart. A strange balance of organs she had never seen. She moved closer to the bed, her steps cautious. The human stirred faintly, his lips parting as though whispering a word. She leaned down, listening, but heard nothing except his weak breath. Her training told her to start a physical scan, to check for injuries beyond the obvious wounds. She pulled on her gloves, the thin fabric stretching across her pale skin. With slow care, she began to check his arms, his ribs, the wounds where shrapnel had pierced him. Her scanner beeped quietly, showing stable but weak life signs. She nodded, relief softening her worry. Then, as she adjusted the blanket to examine further, she froze, her eyes widened, her breath caught. Between the human's legs there was something she could not understand. The area looked swollen, unnatural, and her mind jumped to the worst possible conclusion. Infection, she whispered under her breath. Her species healed by reducing swelling, by cutting away poisoned flesh if needed. This, she thought, looked dangerous, even ready to rupture. Her hands shook as she lifted the scanner, focusing it on the strange growth. The reading confused her, showing warmth, heavy blood flow. No foreign bacteria. Still, it did not look normal to her eyes. Her pulse quickened, and fear crept up her spine. Was this how humans died? Was she about to watch her first human patient lose his life to some alien sickness she could not treat? She remembered her instructor's words. Humans are unpredictable. Their bodies carry secrets even we do not know. Soraya swallowed hard, realizing she might be staring at one of those secrets. The human groaned softly, his head turning, his eyes still closed. Soraya stepped back. Startled, his lips moved again, this time forming a sound: water. His voice was low, rough, like stones scraping together. The sound of it made her chest tighten. It was not threatening, but vulnerable, a plea. She poured water from the jug nearby into a cup. With trembling hands, she lifted his head and helped him drink. The human swallowed, then sank back against the pillow. His breathing steadied. But Soraya's eyes kept drifting back to the strange swelling. Her mind would not rest. What if it spread through his body? What if she was missing the first stage of a deadly contagion? She moved to the wall console and pressed the alert rune. "Dr. Rao," she said into the com, her voice shaking. "The human patient shows a strange inflammation. I need assistance." There was silence for a moment. Then the doctor's voice came back, calm but curious. "Describe it." Soraya hesitated, her cheeks flushing a dark blue shade. How could she describe this without sounding foolish? Still, she forced herself. The lower body, between the legs, swollen, unnatural. The doctor was silent for a long second. Then answered, "I am on my way." Soraya's hands gripped the console, her mind racing. She turned back to the bed, staring at the human again. He looked peaceful, almost unaware of the panic rising around him. How could something so dangerous appear while he slept so calmly? She paced beside the bed, her thoughts spiraling. If this was a new kind of infection, it might not only kill the human, it could spread to the station. She imagined quarantine protocols, sealed doors, frightened staff, all because she failed to recognize the signs early enough. The chamber doors opened suddenly and Dr. Rao entered, tall and stern, his eyes narrowing as he approached. "What is this inflammation you report?" he demanded. Saraya pointed nervously. Unable to speak, Rao leaned down, examined quickly, then raised one brow ridge. For a moment, he said nothing. Then his mouth twitched, as though hiding amusement. Saraya's heart hammered in her chest. She waited for the doctor's judgment, and when it came, it was not what she expected. Dr. Rael leaned closer, his eyes scanning the strange swelling with practiced calm. Saraya stood frozen, her hands twisting together, her chest tight with worry. She waited for the verdict, her mind full of terrifying possibilities. Rao's mouth curved into the smallest hint of a smile. Though his tone remained steady, "This is not an infection," he said slowly. "Nor is it a wound." Saraya blinked, confused. "But it looks unnatural, dangerous." Rao straightened, folding his arms behind his back. "You have much to learn about humans." "Nurse, this is normal." Her mind stumbled over the word normal. How could something so swollen, so heated, be considered normal? Her thoughts swirled with doubt, but before she could ask more, the monitors began to beep sharply. The human's heart rate spiked. His breathing fast and shallow. Saraya gasped. "He is destabilizing." She rushed to the bedside, her scanner in hand. His blood pressure rose dangerously, sweat beading on his skin, to her eyes. It looked like the inflammation had triggered a full-body collapse. "Contain the chamber," Saraya cried, panic rising in her throat. She slammed her hand on the emergency rune. Alarms echoed through the medbay. Red lights flashing across the walls. The sound carried down the corridors, drawing curious staff toward the chamber. Doors locked with heavy thuds as quarantine protocols engaged. Other alien nurses and orderlies pressed against the observation glass, whispering. Their voices were hushed but urgent. "Is it spreading?" One asked. "Humans carry hidden poisons." "I heard," another murmured. "They say their bodies are unstable, full of chemical fire," said a third, eyes wide, inside. Saraya's heart pounded. She tried to stabilize the patient, injecting calming agents into his veins. The human groaned, his muscles tensing, his back arching slightly. He looked as though he were in great pain. Saraya felt helpless. Fighting to steady her own trembling hands, Dr. Rao's voice cut through her panic. Firm and commanding, "Stand aside, nurse." He moved quickly, adjusting the monitors, recalibrating the scanners. His calmness made Saraya feel small, inexperienced, even foolish, yet she could not shake her fear. Her certainty that something terrible was happening. Outside, more staff gathered, their whispers turning into frightened speculation. A junior medic shouted through the glass. "If it bursts, the contagion will leak into the air." "Seal it tighter," another cried. "We should eject the chamber into space before it spreads." Saraya's breath caught in her throat, her mind flashing with horror. "Eject him. Kill him. But he is alive. He is fighting." She turned to Rao, her voice desperate. "Doctor, they think he is a danger." "They want to." Rao silenced her with a look sharp as a blade. "We do not act on rumor," he said coldly. "We act on knowledge." Still, the human's body continued to shake, his heartbeat pounding against the monitors like a drum of war. The alarms screamed louder. The staff outside pressed closer, some covering their mouths in fear. Saraya knelt beside the bed, gripping the human's hand. It was hot, almost burning, yet strangely steady. His fingers twitched against hers, as if clinging to life. Her heart ached, realizing he was not a monster. Not a plague, but simply a being in pain. Her voice softened, trembling as she whispered, "Stay with us, please." The human's eyes flickered open for the briefest second. A deep brown gaze met hers. Hazy with exhaustion, but alive, it pierced through her fear, stirring something she had not expected. Not revulsion, not disgust, but pity and perhaps respect. Then his eyes closed again, his body falling limp. The crowd outside gasped. Some even screamed, "They are dying." One shouted, "No." "Worse, they are transforming." Another cried. Panic grew like wildfire. Whispers twisting into terror. Soraya looked up at Raoul, searching his face for answers, but he was silent. Staring at the patient with a frown that revealed concern he tried to hide. For the first time, Raoul looked uncertain. That uncertainty was enough to shatter the fragile calm. Soraya's pulse thundered in her ears. If even Raoul, the most experienced physician on the station, could not explain what was happening, then maybe the fear was real. Maybe this human truly was dangerous. Suddenly, the monitor steadied, the heart rate slowed. Breathing normalized, the swelling remained, but the rest of his body calmed, the alarms quieted, leaving only the echo of panicked voices outside. Soraya let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her shoulders trembling in relief, but the damage was done. Fear had already spread across the medbay. The staff outside no longer looked curious. They looked horrified. To them, the human was no longer just a patient, he was a threat. And Soraya realized with dread that their fear would not disappear so easily. Raoul finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "This human cannot remain here long. The others will not allow it." Soraya's chest tightened, but he is still alive. "He needs us." Raoul met her gaze, his eyes cold with truth. "He may not survive their fear." The words chilled her. For the first time, Soraya understood that her duty was not only to heal wounds, but to defend the patient from her own people's fear, and deep inside, she felt the stirrings of something stronger than duty. Something she could not yet name. The medbay was quieter now, but the silence felt heavy. Soraya sat by the human's bed, her dark eyes fixed on him. He lay still, his chest rising and falling, his skin pale but alive. Every beep of the monitor sounded louder than before, cloying in the chamber like a heartbeat of its own. She could still feel the fear of the others pressing against the glass. They had left only after Dr. Raoul dismissed them, his voice sharp and commanding, yet she knew their whispers were still spreading through the station. Dangerous, they had called the human. Contagion, some had whispered. The word clung to Soraya's mind like a shadow. She pulled her chair closer. Her hands clasped in her lap. Her training told her she must observe, must record symptoms, but her heart was restless. She wanted answers. She wanted to know the truth of this strange swelling, this inflammation that had nearly caused chaos. She leaned forward. Lowering her scanner again, the device hummed, softly, bathing the human's lower body in pale light. The readings confused her. No infection, no toxins, no abnormal cell growth. Instead, the scanner showed an increase of blood flow and chemical signals she did not recognize. Soraya frowned, biting her lip. Why would the body do this to itself? She whispered. The human stirred faintly at her words. His lips parting, she froze. Leaning closer, he spoke, his voice hoarse and broken. Not sickness. Her heart skipped a beat. She pressed the water cup to his lips again, helping him drink. When he sank back against the pillow, his eyelids fluttered open. Just for a moment, his gaze met hers, deep, heavy, and full of something she could not name. Not sickness. She asked softly, "Then what is it?" The human's lips twitched as though he wanted to smile, but no words came. His eyes closed again, his body drifting back into unconsciousness. Soraya's chest tightened with frustration. She wanted to shake him awake, to demand answers, but she could not. He was too weak, and she was supposed to heal, not harm. Still, the mystery gnawed at her. She turned to her console, searching through alien medical archives, but humans were rare in this sector, their biology not fully studied. Most files contained only fragments, outdated reports. One document claimed humans had strange regenerative ability. Another described them as fragile but unpredictable. None mentioned anything about swelling or inflammation or what she had seen. Her four-fingered hand tapped impatiently against the console. She hated not knowing. She hated being left in the dark. But most of all, she hated the thought that her people might destroy this patient simply out of fear. The image of the junior medic shouting "eject him" into space burned in her mind. She could not let that happen. The door slid open with a hiss, startling her. Dr. Rao stepped back inside, his posture straight, his face unreadable. "You are still here?" he asked. Soraya nodded. I need to understand, doctor. What is happening to him? Why does his body react this way?" Rao's expression flickered, just for an instant, as though he too did not know the full answer. He walked closer. His eyes on the patient. "Humans," he said at last, "are different. Their bodies hold secrets even they do not fully understand. What you saw is not disease, but function." "Function," Sarah repeated, tilting her head. Rao hesitated, then said, "It is part of their reproduction, nurse. You need not concern yourself with it now." Her cheeks flushed dark blue, embarrassment and curiosity colliding. Reproduction, the word made her chest grow warmer. Was this how humans prepared to continue their line? But why would it appear now, when he was wounded and weak? She wanted to ask more, but Rao lifted a hand, cutting her off. "Focus on his recovery. That is your duty. Curiosity can wait." He turned away, his long coat brushing the floor as he left the chamber again. The door closed with a hiss, leaving Soraya alone once more. She stared at the human, her mind swirling with questions. Part of her wanted to obey the doctor, to push curiosity aside. But another part of her, stronger part, refused to let the mystery rest. She leaned closer again, whispering as though the human might somehow hear. "What are you hiding, human? What secrets live inside you?" The human groaned softly, shifting under the blanket. His face twisted in discomfort, and Soraya's heart squeezed with pity. He was fragile, yes, but there was also strength in him. Every rise of his chest, every stubborn beat of his heart, spoke of a will to live, and that will, she realized, was pulling her closer for the first time. Soraya wondered if she was not just treating a patient. Maybe she was standing at the edge of something larger, something that could change how her people saw humans, something that could even change how she saw herself. Her scanner beeped softly again, showing the swelling still present, still unexplained, but now she no longer looked at it with pure fear. Instead, she saw it as a puzzle, a secret waiting for discovery, and deep inside, beneath the fear and doubt, she felt something else, a strange spark of curiosity mixed with respect. The same spark that had driven her to become a nurse in the first place. Soraya reached out, gently adjusting the human's blanket. Her touch lingered just a moment longer than necessary. "Not sickness," she repeated his words quietly, as though promising herself to believe them. Her eyes lifted to the ceiling lights, her voice steady but soft. "Then I will find the truth." The human slept quietly, but the medbay was restless. Whispers traveled like cold air through the halls. Every alien nurse and orderly had heard about the strange inflammation. Some laughed nervously, some spoke with disgust, and others swore it was proof that humans were unstable. Soraya could hear them even through the glass, their words. Cutting into her chest, she sat by the bedside, her eyes fixed on the patient. The memory of his faint smile when he whispered "not sickness" lingered in her thoughts. But her people did not believe such things easily. They wanted proof, and until then, they would keep fearing him. A knock on the glass startled her. An orderly with green skin and sharp ridges on his face leaned close. "You should not sit so near, nurse," he said, his tone half warning, half taunting. "Humans hide poisons in their blood. Do not let his strangeness fool you." Soraya pressed her lips together, refusing to reply. The orderly smirked and walked away, his whispers joining the others. Her heart burned with frustration. Why did they all judge so quickly? Why was fear always stronger than compassion? She turned back to the human, his face calm, his chest rising and falling. He did not look like a monster. He looked like someone who needed help. The door hissed open behind her, and Dr. Rao entered. Again, his eyes scanned the monitors before resting on her. "You remain at his side often," he said, his voice unreadable. "Yes," Dr. Soraya answered. "I cannot abandon him, even if the others do." Rao's gaze lingered on her, as though weighing her loyalty against her fear. "You must learn balance, nurse," he said. "Compassion is good, but curiosity can destroy you." His words were heavy, but Soraya lowered her head. Not answering, suddenly, the human stirred. Groaning softly, his eyelids fluttered open, and his voice came out rough. Where am I?" Soraya leaned closer, her heart racing. "You are safe," she said gently. "On a medical station, you were injured. But we are helping you." The human's gaze shifted around the room, confusion clear in his eyes. When his eyes fell on Soraya, he froze for a moment, as if surprised to see her. Then he whispered, "Alien." Soraya's cheeks flushed dark blue. "Yes," she admitted softly, "I am your nurse." He blinked at her slowly, then tried to sit up, pain flashing across his face. She pressed him back down gently. "Do not move. You are still weak." He looked at her, his lips curving into the faintest smile. "Strange nurse," he murmured, and then winced, his body sinking back against the bed. Her heart skipped at the words, unsure if he meant insult or respect. Dr. Ryle stepped forward, his arms folded. "You must remain calm. Human, your body has taken damage. We are stabilizing you." The human's eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze sliding from Rao back to Soraya. "You saved me?" he asked weakly. Soraya nodded. "Yes, I did." Something flickered in his eyes. Gratitude, fragile but real. But before Soraya could speak more, the door opened again. A group of staff entered. Their voices hushed but full of distrust. One of them, a tall alien with silver markings on his forehead, pointed at the human. "That creature should not remain here," he said sharply. "He carries unknown dangers." "You saw the swelling. It could spread." The others murmured agreement. Their eyes darting nervously to the human, Soraya stood. Quickly, her body tense. "He is not dangerous," she said, her voice firmer than she expected. The group laughed bitterly, one shaking his head. "Not dangerous? Then explain his strange body. Nurse, explain why our scanners cannot define." Him, her mouth opened, then closed, words caught in her throat. How could she explain something even she did not fully understand? The human, still weak, watched the exchange, his brow furrowing. "What are they saying?" he asked in a strained voice. Soraya's chest ached. "They think you are sick," she admitted quietly. "They fear you." His eyes darkened. Pain not only from his body, but from her words. He let out a weak laugh, though it was more bitter than amused. "Not the first time aliens feared humans," he whispered. The staff continued pressing. Their words sharper, remove him before he infects the whole station. He should be placed in stasis, frozen until studied or expelled to protect the rest of us. Soraya's hands clenched into fists. Her voice shook but carried strength as she faced them. He is my patient, and I will not allow you to treat him like waste. He is alive, and he deserves care. The staff hissed with disapproval. Their eyes narrowing. One of them spat back, "You defend him because you are young. Naive, you will regret this." Dr. Rao raised a hand, silencing them. "Enough," he said firmly, his voice like iron. "The human remains under my authority. Leave this chamber at once," though they grumbled. The staff obeyed, retreating slowly, their glares lingering on the human when the doors shut again. Soraya exhaled shakily. Her knees trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. She turned to the human who was watching her with tired but steady eyes. "You defended me," he said softly, almost in disbelief. Her cheeks warmed, her voice gentle. "You are my patient." That is reason enough for a long moment. They held each other's gaze, and in that silence, Soraya realized something. This was no longer just about medicine or curiosity. It was about trust. About standing between fear and truth. She was no longer only a nurse, she was his shield. The chamber lights dimmed as the station shifted into night cycle. Most of the medbay had gone quiet. But Soraya could not rest. She sat at the human's bedside, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, but her heart wide awake. The words of the staff still echoed in her mind, calls to freeze him, to expel him, to end the risk before it spread. She looked at the human, his face calm and sleep. She thought of the way his hand had twitched in hers, how his eyes had opened to meet hers with gratitude. He was not a monster, not a weapon, not a plague, but she had no proof to silence their fear. If she did not find the truth soon, they might take him away. Her scanner beeped softly, showing the swelling still present. Her cheeks flushed as she studied the strange readings again. Blood flow high, chemicals active, yet no sickness, no toxins. Every answer only led to more questions. "What are you hiding, human?" she whispered. The door hissed open behind her, and Dr. Rao entered quietly. He carried a data slate in his hand, his eyes sharp as always. "You are still here," he said. More statement than question. "Yes," Soraya answered, her voice firm. "I must understand, doctor, if we cannot explain him. They will kill him out of fear." Rao studied her for a long moment, then sighed, setting the slate on the console. "There is something you must know," he said slowly. Soraya's heart skipped. Leaning forward, Rao tapped the slate, activating a hidden file classified, restricted to senior medical officers only. The screen filled with diagrams of human anatomy, detailed notes, some translated, others written in alien script. Soraya's eyes widened as she scanned the data. It showed the same swelling she had seen, marked with notes, not disease, natural, reproductive signal. Her mouth opened slightly, shock flooding her chest. "So it is true," she whispered. "It is part of their reproduction." Rao nodded, his face calm but his voice low. "Yes, nurse, humans do not function as we do. Their bodies prepare for reproduction in ways unfamiliar to us. What you saw is not infection, not danger, but biology." Soraya's cheeks warmed again, embarrassment mixing with relief. All this time she had feared contagion when it was only nature, but her relief quickly darkened. "Then why did you not tell them?" she asked. "Why let the others believe he was a danger?" Rao's eyes narrowed, his voice carrying weight. "Because fear is powerful, nurse, and sometimes truth is more dangerous than lies. If they knew what this meant, if they understood his vulnerability, do you think they would treat him with respect? Or would they mock, ridicule, perhaps even harm him?" Soraya fell silent, his words striking her like cold water. She imagined the sneers, the cruel laughter, the whispers spreading faster. He was right, the truth might protect him from suspicion. But it would also expose him to humiliation. She looked down at the human. Her heart aching, he stirred, his eyes fluttering open at the sound of voices. "What are you talking about?" he asked weakly, his voice rough. Soraya froze, realizing he had heard enough. She leaned closer, her voice gentle. "We are talking about you." His gaze shifted to the slate, then to her. "You know now," he said. Softly, "Don't you?" Her throat tightened, but she nodded. "Yes, I do." For a long moment, he was silent. Then he let out a tired laugh. "Everywhere I go." Aliens panic. They see what they do not understand and think it is sickness, or weapon, or curse. His eyes met hers, filled with both sorrow and strange amusement. "And you? What do you see, nurse?" Soraya's chest tightened, her breath catching. She wanted to say she saw only biology, only a patient. But her heart whispered something else, something deeper. She swallowed hard, her voice low. "I see someone who is alive, someone who deserves care." The human blinked, surprise softening his gaze. His lips curved into the faintest smile, a fragile light in the shadow of his pain. "Then, maybe you're the first," he whispered. Before Soraya could reply, the alarm rune lit up on the console. A medical emergency. Flashing red across the chamber, she jumped to her feet, scanning the monitors. His blood pressure was dropping, heart rate weakening. The swelling was not the problem. His battle wounds were tearing open again. Her hands flew across the instruments. "Doctor, we are losing him," she cried. Ral moved swiftly, injecting stabilizers, ordering plasma infusions, but the numbers kept falling. The human's breaths grew shallow, his skin turning cold. Soraya's hands trembled as she pressed against his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me," she begged, her voice breaking. "You cannot give up now." The human's eyes flickered open, pain burning in them. His lips moved, forming words so faint she almost missed them. "Not ready to die." Tears burned in her eyes. "You will not die," she whispered fiercely. "Not while I am here." Her voice was a promise, one she had never made to any patient before. The alarms screamed louder, but she refused to stop. She worked with frantic precision, guided not only by training, but by something stronger, determination. And for the first time, she realized this was no longer just about duty. It was about him, about saving him. Not because he was her patient, but because he was human. And because she cared. The alarms wailed through the medbay, their sharp cries echoing like sirens of doom. Soraya's heart pounded as she pressed down on the human's bleeding wound. Her hands slick with his blood, his skin was pale, his breaths shallow, and the monitors showed numbers falling lower and lower. She had saved many lives before, but none had felt like this. This was not just a patient, this was a fight against the fear of her people. Against the ignorance of the galaxy, Dr. Rao moved swiftly, his voice calm but urgent. "Stabilizers now," he ordered, injecting a thick blue fluid into the human's veins. The monitors flickered, showing a brief rise in his vitals before dropping again. Rao frowned. "It's not enough. His body resists our medicines." Soraya's eyes widened, panic tightening her chest. If alien medicine failed, what could save him? Her gaze fell on the human's body, so different, so fragile, yet so stubbornly alive. She remembered his words. "Not ready to die." Her jaw tightened. "Then we will not let him die," she whispered. She looked at the supply shelves, searching. Desperately, her eyes landed on a small kit, human emergency rations salvaged from the battlefield. Inside were strange vials, marked with symbols she could barely read. Rao followed her gaze, his brow furrowing. "You do not know what those "Will do," he warned. Soraya shook her head, her voice trembling but determined. "Maybe not, but neither does anyone else." "And it might be the only thing that works." Raoul hesitated, torn between protocol and survival. Finally, he nodded. "Do it, but quickly." Soraya opened the kit. Pulling out a vial filled with red liquid, her hands shook as she read the faded label plasma concentrate. She loaded it into the injector, pressing it against the human's arm. The device hissed, delivering the strange human medicine into his blood. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the monitors flickered, his heart rate jumping, his breathing steadier. Soraya let out a breath of relief, her shoulders trembling, but she knew it was not enough. His wounds still bled, his body still weak. She needed more. She turned back to the shelves, grabbing alien sealant foam. With swift hands, she pressed it into his wounds, the substance glowing faintly as it hardened. The bleeding slowed, the flow of red finally stopping. Her gloves were soaked, but her eyes stayed sharp, step by step. She was pulling him back. The human groaned softly, his eyelids twitching. Soraya leaned closer, her voice low but fierce. "Stay awake, fight with me. I will not let you go." His lips moved, and a single word escaped. "You." Her chest tightened at the sound, heat rushing to her face. Yes, he was looking at her, not at the machines. Not at Raoul, but at her. And in that moment, Soraya felt something stir deeper than duty. It was not only compassion, it was connection. Raoul's voice broke the moment. "Nurse, pressure here." She pressed again, following his lead, but her thoughts burned with his word Jew. He was fighting not just for life, but for her minutes. Stretched like hours, the alarms finally dimming as the human's vitals steadied. His breathing smoothed, his skin warmed. The monitors beeped in slow, steady rhythm. The storm had passed for now. Soraya slumped back into her chair, her arms aching, her uniform stained. Her chest heaved, and tears stung her eyes. She looked at the human, alive, fragile, but no longer slipping away. She had done it. Raoul wiped his hands, his face unreadable. "You acted without hesitation," he said quietly, "and you may have saved him, but you also crossed a line." Soraya frowned, confusion mixing with fear. "A line?" Raoul nodded, his eyes narrowing. "You used human medicine without clearance. You mixed it with alien treatment. That is forbidden." Nurse, her heart sank, but she lifted her chin. "I did what I had to do, doctor. If I had waited for permission, he would be dead." Raoul studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "You are reckless, but perhaps necessary?" Before Soraya could reply, the human's hand twitched again, his fingers brushing hers. Her breath caught as she gently clasped his hand. His eyes opened slightly, brown and deep, still weak but alive. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice raw. Soraya's throat tightened, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered back, "I saved you, but you fought too." For a moment, silence filled the chamber, broken only by the soft hum of machines. His eyes held hers, gratitude shining in them, and in that gaze, Soraya felt the weight of her choice. She had not only saved his life, she had tied herself to it. The door outside hissed, voices murmuring in the corridor. Soraya's heart grew cold again. The others would come, they would question, they would fear. And when they learned she had used forbidden methods, they might not forgive her. But as she looked back at the human's faint smile, the warmth of his hand in hers, she made a silent vow. No matter what the station decided, she would stand with him, because saving him was no mistake, was the only truth she could follow. The human slept peacefully now, his chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. The medbay was calm, but Soraya's heart was not. She sat beside his bed, her hand still lightly resting on his. It was a small act, but it meant more to her than anything else. The memory of the alarms, the blood, and the fight for his life. Still burned in her mind, she had crossed the line, breaking every rule of protocol to save him. And though Dr. Rao had not reported her yet, new whispers were already spreading. The staff would not forget what she had done. The door hissed open and a group of medics entered, their eyes sharp and cold. One of them stepped forward, silver marks gleaming across his forehead. "You have gone too far, nurse," he said harshly. "You risked the station with your reckless choices, mixing alien treatment with human medicine. You want us all to die." Soraya stood, her back straight, though her knees trembled. "I saved him," she said firmly. "And he is alive because of it. You call it reckless, to call it duty." The medic sneered. "Duty? He is not one of us. He is dangerous. His body is unstable. We should end this now before his sickness spreads." Her hands clenched at her sides, her voice rising with fire. "He is not sick. He is not dangerous. You fear him only because you do not understand him. But I saw the truth. He is alive. He is strong, and he is worth saving." The group murmured angrily, their voices low and hateful. One spat. "You sound more human than alien." Before she could reply, a weak voice spoke from the bed. "Enough." Everyone froze, their eyes snapping toward the patient. The human's eyes were open. Tired but burning with determination, he pushed himself up slightly, his voice rough but steady. "I have heard your whispers. I know your fear, but I am not your enemy." The medic stiffened, some stepping back. He continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "My body may be strange to you, but that does not make me a monster. I bleed as you bleed, I hurt as you hurt, and I live because she refused to let me die." He turned his head toward Soraya, his eyes softening. "You call me danger. But she called me life." Soraya's breath caught, her chest tightening as his words echoed through the chamber. For the first time, silence fell on the medics. They looked uncertain, torn between fear and the undeniable truth before them. One of them muttered, "Even so, the council will never allow him to stay. He must be removed." Dr. Rao entered then, his tall form commanding the space. "No," he said firmly. "He stays." The medics gasped, some protesting. Rao raised a hand, silencing them. "I have served this station for decades, and I have seen many species come and go. None have stirred such fear and such hope at the same time. This human deserves a chance, and if you cannot see that, then you do not belong in medicine." The medics hesitated, anger burning in their eyes, but they dared not challenge him. One by one, they left, their whispers trailing behind them like poison in the air. When the door shut, Soraya let out a long breath, her shoulders trembling. She turned to Rao, her voice soft. "Thank you." Dr. Rao's expression softened just slightly. "Do not thank me, nurse. You saved him." "Not I," he glanced at the human, then back to her, his eyes narrowing with quiet understanding. "Take care, Soraya. The bond you form now will change you." When he left, the chamber felt strangely quiet. Soraya turned back to the human, her heart still racing. "You should not have spoken," she whispered. "You are too weak." The human gave a faint smile, his voice low. Sometimes weakness speaks louder than strength. Her cheeks warmed, her hands trembling as she sat back down. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them filled with unspoken truth. At last, she whispered, "Why did you thank me like that? Why put your trust in me?" He looked at her, his eyes deep, steady, and soft. "Because when everyone else saw a disease, you saw a person." Her breath hitched, her heart pounding harder. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. In his eyes, she saw not just gratitude, but something more, something fragile, like the first spark of fire in the cold. For the first time, she realized this bond was not only nurse and patient, Not only alien and human, it was something deeper. Something rare. She reached out, her hand brushing his gently. "I will stay with you," she said quietly. "No matter what they say, no matter what they do, I will protect you." His fingers closed weakly over hers, his grip faint, but full. "Of meaning, and I will live," he whispered. "Not just for me, but for you." The lights above hummed softly, casting a glow over the chamber. The medbay was no longer just a room of fear, but a place where something new had been born. A fragile bond between alien and human, tested by fear, sealed by survival. Soraya sat by his side, her heart no longer uncertain. Whatever came next, whispers, threats, or even the council's judgments, she knew she would face it. Because in that moment, she understood humans were not strange monsters to fear. They were something else, something the galaxy had yet to see fully. And perhaps, just perhaps, they were what the galaxy needed most.